Talk Radio.
He is the last of his kind. All that remains of a once powerful nation. Some think he is a myth. Some believe he is the chosen one, who will bring balance to a world at war. And some will stop at nothing to destroy him.
Welcome everybody to Morris Talk Live 100. I'm your host, Tarhaka Amaana El Bey, and tonight my special guest is Dr. Walter Williams. The subject will be why the ancient African Egyptian hieroglyphics have never been deciphered. Okay? Point one, what are hieroglyphics? Point two, were the ancient Egyptians African? Point three, where are the ancient Egyptians today? Where at? Did the ancient African Egyptians just walk off the face of the earth and disappear? Who are those people in the land of North Africa called Egypt? Who are these people? What are they doing there? For what? Who are they? What are they? Where did they come from? These are just a few of the questions that we're going to deal with tonight. And before we get down in into the broadcast, I'm going to run some of these commercials, and then we're ready to go. As soon as my host call in, we're ready to rock and roll. Y'all just hold on a minute. We'll be right back.
Hi,
okay?
I'm Tarhaka. By January the 26th or 28th, 2022, the U.S. government corporation will begin calling for full payment of student loan debt again. The pause will be over. Don't wait until the last minute. Get out of debt now. You have plenty of time now. Go to www.tarhakadebtelimination.org. That's tarhakadebtelimination.org. It's just like someone filing bankruptcy. After you have filed and the deadline arrives, you still owe the debt. It's a scam. Go to tarhakadebtelimination.org. Contact me, Tarhaka, for what you need to solve the problem. Peace. Don't wait. What a fantastic way to live. Hello, I'm Tarhaka Amaana El Bey, operating in the private as a secured party and creditor instead of living the life of a debtor. Now, to learn how to do that, you have to get the knowledge. There's no doubt about it. You don't mix public with private, just like oil and water don't mix. For the skill and know-how, go to www.tarhakadebtelimination.org. That's tarhakadebtelimination.org. Contact me, Tarhaka. My number is on the website. Or send me an email. That's tarhakadebtelimination.org. Learn how to live the good life as a secured party and a creditor instead of a debtor, and eliminate your debts. Fun time is almost over. tarhakadebtelimination.org. Peace. Hello, everybody. I want to introduce you to The Great Debate by Dr. Walter Williams. He single-handedly laid out the facts in this powerful debate against Mr. Munir Muhammad of the Nation of Islam, Chester Blair, a prominent lawyer in Chicago, Illinois, and Reverend Henry Harvey, a prominent minister in Chicago, and Prince Azio Ben Israel of the Hebrew Israelites. This debate was hosted by a retired policeman named W.L. Lillard. Now, the whole thing was a setup by Lillard and his gang, but it didn't work. They brought what they believed to the table, but Dr. Walter Williams brought what he knew for a fact and what he could prove and laid it on the table. We are now in the age of knowing. The age of walking around believing in stuff is over. For your copy of The Great Debate, go to TarhakaDataElimination.org. That's TarhakaDataElimination.org, or contact me by phone. My number's on the website. Oh, and by the way, the lawyer got bust up too. The Great Debate. Get your copy today. Good day and peace. Real estate is booming today. But one thing I learned a long time ago about mortgages and foreclosures. The real estate market goes in cycles, up and down. The best thing to do is get out of that type of situation early. The U.S. corporation is still operating in a bankrupt state today. Make no mistake about it. When it comes to your home, the bank has no skin in the game. When you sign for your home, it was paid for. Learn how to do that. The IRS is a private for-profit corporation. Learn how to deal with that. Go to TarhakaDataElimination.org. That's TarhakaDataElimination.org. How do you discharge debt? How do you write it up? What do you do? Learn how to do that. Contact me, Tarhaka Amaana El Bey. Go to TarhakaDataElimination.org. Peace. Credit card debt, student loan debt, lawsuits, child support, mortgages, foreclosure, secured party, and creditor. Get my free report. Go to www.TarhakaDataElimination.org. That's TarhakaDataElimination.org. What kind of trust do you set up? How do you use a trust? What do you put in a trust? For the solution, contact me, Tarhaka Amaana El Bey. Get my free report by going to TarhakaDataElimination.org. Driver's license, freedom to travel. Who exactly needs a driver's license? What did the U.S. Supreme Court rule about it over and over again? How does that work? What is proper syntax grammar? Get my free report. Go to TarhakaDataElimination.org. Fill out the little contact form, put your email address in there. That'll come straight to me, and I'll rush it directly to your email. TarhakaDataElimination.org.
Okay, everybody, we back. It appears that my guest is in the queue. We pressed 1 on the phone, so that let me know that he's in the queue. I'm going to open up the phone line, and I'll let him in. Keep in mind that tonight's broadcast we'll be dealing with why the ancient Egyptian hieroglyphics have never been deciphered. Why the ancient African Egyptian hieroglyphics have never been deciphered. Okay? Hold on. We got a caller with his hand raised. Area code 918. Tell me who you are, where you calling from, what's your question to comment before we get started.
Brother Tarhaka, Dr. Chisholm, how you doing, sir?
I'm doing just fine. You got to speak up a little bit. Can't hardly hear you.
All right, I'll talk a little louder. How you doing, sir?
I'm doing just fine, Dr. Chisholm. What's on your mind, man?
All right. Real quick, I know I got about a minute or so, so just real quick now, this little ditty I got, if you own your own home or you own your own vehicle and you have no payments, if you actually own your own family bank, then this is probably not for you. But on the contingent that you would like to have a home and not have any payments, have a family bank, then I'd ask you to have a pencil and paper. Anytime you're listening to Brother Tarhaka, you should have a pencil and paper. But anyways, here's a number. Area code 302-202-1115. I'll repeat it, 302-202-1115. And passcode is 8897-6871. 8897-6871. Take a listen to that. It's about 2 or 3 minutes. You understand it. Give me a call at area code 918-780-7867. That's 918-780-7867. Brother Tarhaka, peace be unto you, brother.
All right, Dr. Chisholm, thank you so much for coming on. Ladies and gentlemen, that's Dr. Nathaniel Chisholm. He's involved in CTFO, and he can show you how to get involved with that. You can also go over there to TarhakaDataElimination.org and just click on the CTFO, get your free website and back office right there. But without further ado, I'm going to bring in my special guest, Dr. Walter Williams. Area code 773. Dr. Williams, you're on the air.
Thank you, Brother Tarhaka. Glad to be with you this evening, and I feel that we're going to have a great, great, great show.
Okay, fantastic. I'm glad you're here. The switchboard is lit up, and could you give us, you know how we want you to give us some enlightenment on that, on that great debate thing, man, because I keep watching this stuff over and over and over. It's unbelievable. It is incredible. And but you want to give us a little breakdown on that, and for the new people that have joined us today, because we got quite a few new people that have come on the social networks, and they're over here, and they probably want to hear you for the first time. So give us a little breakdown on who you are, you know, where you come from, and what this is all about, man.
Well, I am Walter Williams. I was born and raised in Chicago, Illinois, and miseducated in Chicago, Illinois. And I did a whole lot of things in my life, but the most important thing that I ended up doing was to bring forth the consciousness of ancient Egypt to the African community in America and throughout and around the world. Now, I heard you talking about the Great Debate. The Great Debate, I feel, is a great, great, great tape that one should, you know, listen to and watch and take notes as they watch and listen. That this debate took place in Chicago on a local television show in the year 1993. It was hosted by W.L. Lillard. Now, W.L. Lillard invited me on to have me defeated because he didn't like the things I was saying because that was the first year that I really came out on the world scene of human presentation by presenting history by way of religion, by way of history, by way of ancient Egyptian consciousness, etc., etc. And at that time, I had created an ancient Egyptian museum, which I opened up March 11, 1990, in Chicago, Illinois. So there was a lot going on in my life, and especially with the book that I had just published that year. It's entitled The Historical Origin of Christianity. The thesis of that book is saying that there's never been a man that ever walked the earth in human form of any race, creed, or color by the name of Jesus Christ. Now, W.L. Lillard and others took offense to that. So he set me up on his local TV show and his TV station to defeat me because I said those words. So now what he did, he got his buddies together. Prince Raphael Ben Israel, who is a member of the Black Hebrew Israelite group under the leadership of Ben Ami. Ben Ami is dead now. He died 2 or 3 years ago. But he was the head of the Black Hebrew Israelite that Prince Raphael was head of it. It was the agent for Ben Ami in Chicago. So he had the Black Hebrew Israelite group in Chicago. And then he set me up with the Christian minister, Reverend Henry Hardy, who has a large following in his local Christian church right here in Chicago. So, and then the third person he set me up with was Munir Muhammad, who was a follower of Elijah Muhammad of the Nation of Islam. And then the fourth person he set me up with was Chester L. Blair, a lawyer. Why Chester L. Blair? Why a lawyer? Because Walter Williams was saying that Africans born in the United States of America was not citizens of the United States of America due to the Constitution drawn up in 1787. So by a lawyer or any lawyer, in order to become a lawyer, in order to pass the bar exam and get your law license, you have to defend the Constitution. And so that was the reason why Chester L. Blair, the lawyer, was there. And then the fifth person was W.L. Lillard himself. So that great debate tape is a historical tape. It's a collector's item, and it's a tape that the information on that tape, you cannot get it any place else but on that tape. Is priceless. So I'm like you, Brother Tarhaka, I'm enthused over that tape because every time I see it, I get chills and coming over my body because of the information and the way the conversation was going. And it is actually a part 1 and a part 2 tape. See, so therefore, when you get this tape, you're gonna see part 1, and then you're gonna go into part 2, and both parts are very informative and very interesting. So that is a little overview about the Great Debate tape, Brother Tarhaka.
Okay, fantastic. Why the ancient African Egyptian hieroglyphics have never been deciphered? Dr. Williams, you want to give us a complete breakdown on that?
Well, you have, it's in my book, The Historical Origin of Christianity, in the section that's entitled the appendix. In this appendix
okay,
section,
I got it right here in front of me. Could I read some of it?
Of course.
All right, right here in the appendix on page 146 in the book entitled The Historical Origins of Christianity by Dr. Walter Williams, it states the following. Why the Medu Neter hieroglyphics have never been deciphered. Contrary to the teachings of Western institutions, the Medu Neter or hieroglyphics, which are the pictorial symbols of the ancient Egyptians, have never been deciphered. The following are the reasons. In order for the Medu Neter or hieroglyphics to have been deciphered, one would have to ask the ancient Egyptians who drew the symbols what he or she meant for them to be. That's okay. The next thing is, to illustrate my point, I would draw a symbol of my own creation. I now ask, what is the meaning of this symbol? Realistically, you cannot know until I provide you with the meaning. That's number 2. Number 3 is, no one can put a phonetic alphabetical value to symbols. For example, the symbol of the question mark, can you assign a phonetic alphabetical value to the letters T, M, P, K, R, etc.? To the question mark, the answer is no, because the question mark is telling you something to do. To question. If you drive a car, you were tested in 3 categories: eyesight, rules of the road, and symbols. When you were tested for symbols, you were asked what the symbols were telling you to do. In order to know what the symbols are telling you, are telling one to do, one has to know the meaning of the symbols as standardized by the Division of Motor Vehicles. If you did not know the meaning of the symbols, you failed the test. Also, one cannot use any language, Coptic or otherwise, as the key to understanding the symbols of hieroglyphics, i.e., You cannot apply languages to symbols that one does not know the meaning of. It is impossible to reduce 400 or more symbols of the hieroglyphics to 26 letters of the alphabetical symbol. What the Europeans did was to decide which hieroglyphic symbols would be used to represent a given letter of the alphabet. They matched the assigned letters of the alphabet to the hieroglyphic symbols of their choice. Man, this is something else. The arbitrary assigning of letters and symbols is evident with the acceptance of the pioneer works of J.J. Bartholomew, Count Sylvester de Sacy, Jonathan Acklebald, Thomas Young, and later of Jean Francois Compolyon, by the majority of Western academia in 1822. Compolyon, with the help of the works of Thomas Young and Rosetta Stone, established a supposed system, theories, and principles for deciphering the ancient Egyptian hieroglyphics. His work at first was not accepted by other European scholars until another stone with bilingual inscriptions, the Decree of Canopus, was discovered in 1866. This stone was believed to have confirmed the theories of Compolyon. Question: after 44 years of widespread disagreement among the European scholars, how did the discovery of the stone of Canopus in 1866 confirm Compolyon's theories and readings of the hieroglyphics? Where is the original stone of Canopus? Who discovered the Canopus stone? How was the Canopus stone discovered? Who validated the authenticity of the stone of Canopus? Compolyon accepted work on the hieroglyphics inspired Adolf Erman, the curator of ancient Egyptian artifacts and the Berlin Museum. Erman was a student of Carl Richard Lepeusius, German Egyptologist, who encouraged him to publish a grammatical dictionary of the hieroglyphics in 1880. The dictionary was revised in 1925 and finished in 1934. Erman's work created a new pseudo direction and language for the ancient Egyptian hieroglyphics. His work inspired and gave E.A. Wallace Budge a guideline to write his book entitled The Book of the Dead, or The Coming Forth by Day and Night. I urge you to read this appendix over and over until you understand the reasons why the Mejanecture or hieroglyphics have never been deciphered. I will now conclude by quoting from the book, The Rosetta Stone, written by British Museum by Carol Andrews. It states the following: it is not possible, strictly speaking, to compile an alphabetical hieroglyphic sign for practical purposes. However, certain unilateral hieroglyphics have been selected to form a kind of alphabet which is universally used for the organization of dictionaries, word lists, index, the general references purposes. And one can see it is not possible to use the Rosetta Stone as an instrument to decipher the ancient Egyptian hieroglyphics. Warning: do not allow European scholars or Western institutions trained African scholars to tell you that the ancient Egyptian hieroglyphics have been deciphered. Okay, Dr. Williams, in my personal opinion, they ain't deciphered nothing.
Well, that's the truth, Brother Tarhaka. And let me recap what you just have read from my book, Historical Origins of Christianity, page 145, the appendix section. And the people out in the listening audience, if you have a copy of that book, my book, Historical Origins of Christianity, the book that Brother Tarhaka was just reading from, go to page 146 and read it for yourself until you really can understand the message in there. And if the ones who have listened to Brother Tarhaka read from page 146, the appendix section in my book, Historical Origins of Christianity, if you don't have my book, I'm not trying to sell you a book, but since we're talking about the subject of hieroglyphics, I urge you to buy the book and go to page 146 and read for yourself. And not only one time should you read it, you should read it over and over again until you really can understand the message, what I'm writing in the book for you to get and to have. Now, let me recap that whole section that you just got to expounding on and reading on. Now, again, we're talking about the hieroglyphics, those pictorial symbols drawn by our African ancestors, the ancient Egyptians, during the time of antiquity. Now, those are pictorial symbols or signs. Now, no human can tell you why that was used in the culture of ancient Egypt. But since they're there, let me go back and recap the things that you just had read to the listening audience. Why the Melanesian hieroglyphics has never been deciphered? One would have to ask the ancient Egyptian what he or she meant for those symbols to be. You cannot guess what the symbols are. You have to ask them what is the meaning of those symbols that you have just drawn. So they were not around for you to ask. So that's number one as to why the Melanesian hieroglyphics has never been deciphered. Because the ancient Egyptians, who the only people on earth that can provide you the answer to that question, were not around for you to ask. Number two, I drew a symbol of my own creation, and I asked the reader to tell me the meaning of the symbol that I, Walter Williams, has just drawn. It is impossible for you to tell me the meaning of this symbol because you don't know what I meant when I drew the symbol to be. So you would have to ask me, Walter Williams, what is the meaning of the symbol that you just drawn? That's number two. Number three, you cannot put any phonetic value or an alphabetical value to symbols. For instance, when you went to the Secretary of State in the state that you live in to get your driver's license, you were tested in three things: rules of the road, eyesight, and symbols. When you got to the symbol section of your test, they asked you what was a symbol telling you to do. So they didn't tell you to put an alphabet to it. They asked you the meaning of the symbol and what was it telling you to do. So therefore, you had to explain what the symbol was telling you to do by explanation. That's number three. Number four, I have in my book, in this chapter, the question mark symbol. That question mark symbol, when you see one that represents the question mark, that question mark is asking you to do what? Question. Okay? Ask question. Now, that question mark symbol, we all know that. It's a common symbol that is known throughout the culture of today's people walking this earth, especially the ones in America. Now, you cannot apply an alphabet to the question mark. You can't say that question mark is an L or P or M or D or anything like that. You have to know the meaning of the question mark. By knowing the meaning of the question mark, then you can explain the meaning to others who may ask you, what is the meaning of the question mark, or what is the meaning of the symbol here that we all know as the question mark. Okay? Now, that's number four. So, number five is that the Rosetta Stone was found in 1799 by Napoleon Bonaparte going into Egypt. And from that finding of the Rosetta Stone, the Rosetta Stone existed on planet Earth as an artifact that came out of ancient Egypt. Now, Carol Andrews, who was a teacher at Oxford University in Oxford, England, wrote a book for the British Museum entitled The Rosetta Stone. In her writings, on page 54 of that book, The Rosetta Stone, she said that, strictly speaking, you cannot put an alphabet to symbols. That's what she said. Symbols, at this point, can only be used for indexing purposes, catalog purposes, and dictionary purposes. Okay? And that's number 5. Number 6, if you have in your home a dictionary called the American Heritage Dictionary of the English Language, the American Heritage Dictionary of the English Language, look up in that dictionary hieroglyphics. The definition that is written in that book, the American Heritage Dictionary of the English Language, about the hieroglyphics is this. It said unlegible, undecipherable, unlegible, not able to understand what the hieroglyphics are about. Undecipherable means that you can't decipher them. See, so that's number 6. Now let's move further into history. As I mentioned before, in 1799, a group led by Napoleon Bonaparte of France came into Egypt on a search of artifacts, on a search of information that they could glean from the country of Egypt. So in 1799, in Rosetta, Egypt, he found a stone there. That stone was originally a commemorative stone, commemorated by the Melchite Egyptian to Ptolemy V Epiphanes Eucharistos on his first coronation, or his first time being elected as the Ptolemy to rule and control Egypt. That stone was a commemorative stone. So that's where the stone originally supposedly had come from. And Ptolemy V Epiphanes Eucharistos' time was 203 BC. So now here the stone is turning up in Egypt in the hands of Napoleon Bonaparte of France, as I mentioned before, who took a group of men, forensic artists, and other scientists over in Egypt, and they ran and stumbled across the stone that we know today as the Rosetta Stone. However, the British did not allow him to take that stone out of Egypt, because the British at that time was controlling and ruling Egypt under their control. So the only thing that they allowed him to do is take rubbings of the stone. But the actual stone, they eventually took it out of Egypt, brought it into England, and it is now housed as one of the artifacts on display in the British Museum as I speak. So let's move a little further. In 23 years later, after finding of that stone, a young man in his 20 year of existence as a human being on this earth, Jean-Francois Champollion, 23 years later came out and said that he have deciphered 7 glyphs and 9 glyphs. He used his analyzation to make those claims and statements by finding two cartouches that was supposedly attached to the Rosetta Stone. Inside of the cartouche, he found 7 hieroglyphic symbols, and he thought, I have to use the word thought, that they were saying the word, portraying the word Ptolemy, because Ptolemy has 7 letters in the spelling of Ptolemy. And then in the other cartouche that has 9 hieroglyphs within the cartouche, he made the assumption, these are all assumptions by Champollion, he made the assumption that those 9 hieroglyphic symbols within the cartouche was saying that this was Cleopatra. So that's his assumption. So, but his peers in Western academia did not accept Champollion's theory. That's all it was, just a theory. And they denied him that theory to be validated. He said that, they said that he did not decipher anything whatsoever. That was his assumption and his theory. But 44 years later, in 1866, in Canopus, Egypt, they supposedly found another stone called the Stone of Canopus, another bilingual stone that matches the stone of Rosetta. So they said that with this finding of this stone in 1866, they said Champollion indeed deciphered those 7 and 9 glyphs that was found inside of the cartouche on the Rosetta Stone. But that's not true. But anyway, that's the history coming from the finding of the Rosetta Stone, who the stone was commemorated to, down to Jean-Francois Champollion. Now, the Stone of Canopus, I have never seen. I've never seen a picture of it. I never knew that it exists until they came out, so supposedly in 1866, claiming that they found another bilingual stone called the Stone of Canopus. Now, surely they would take that stone, take pictures of it, to show you that it was a bilingual stone that equaled the Rosetta Stone. I've seen no evidence of that. So, but they tell me that that Stone of Canopus is now in the Egyptian museum in Cairo, Egypt. So, but I have never seen a picture of it, so that doesn't mean that it doesn't exist. But however, I would still make that claim. Now, let's move a little further. In 1875, a group of German scholars, forensic artisans, and linguistic artists, and let's say linguistic scholars came into Egypt along with other scientists in this group of Germans that came back in 1875. And they came into Egypt to learn something about ancient Egypt. Okay? Now, after coming out of ancient Egypt, that group of scholars of Germans were in that group were Carl Richard Lepsius, the teacher of Adolf Ehrman. Adolf Ehrman was in that group. James Henry Breasted from the United States of America, a American archaeologist who was a student of Adolf Ehrman. And Adolf Ehrman, and James Henry Breasted spoke fluent German, because in order to be with that group, he had to learn German, and he was taught German by his teacher, Adolf Ehrman. So that is some of the history concerning Adolf Ehrman. Adolf Ehrman came out in 1880 with a book called a book on the decipherment of the hieroglyphs. In other words, he came out with the first dictionary on the hieroglyphs in 1880. And that was Adolf Erman's book in 1880, and he revised that book in 1925, and he revised it again in 1934. But his book came out in 1880, the Grammatical Dictionary of the Hieroglyphs. Now, he also wrote a book on his own entitled A Life in Ancient Egypt. Now, Life in Ancient Egypt, on page 6, Adolf Erman made this statement. He says, anything that you don't understand that comes out of Egypt, he said, just use your imagination to fill in the blanks. That's on page 6 in his book called Life in Ancient Egypt. He wants you to, if you don't understand Egypt, just use your imagination to fill in the blanks. And that's what the Europeans have been doing ever since they came into the consciousness of ancient Egypt, using their imagination to fill in the blanks. Because no one knows anything about really the history of ancient Egypt. Now, to prove that point, that no one knows about ancient Egypt, is this. James Henry Breasted, a student of Adolf Erman, a professor at the Chicago University of Chicago in Chicago, back in the early beginning of the 20th century, 1900s, wrote a book in 1905 entitled The History of Egypt. In this book, he wrote on page 24 that we, meaning we is European scholars, do not possess a history of Egypt. We, meaning European scholars, do not possess a history of Egypt. The purely history as presented by Manetho can hardly be called history. That's what he wrote in his book on page 24. The word purely means childish, trivial, and silly. So the childish, trivial, silly history supposedly written by Manetho can hardly be called history. Now, on that same page, he goes down further near the end, and he apologized to the reader for not having knowledge and information about ancient Egypt. But that didn't stop him from writing his book. He wrote, after he made that statement, 634-page book, A History of Egypt. And he told you he didn't know anything about ancient Egypt. And he even put a chronology of ancient Egypt in his book, A History of Ancient Egypt. So these are some of the things I want to bring out to your attention. So now, after Erman came out with his book in 1880, the Grammatical Dictionary of the Hieroglyphs, in 1880, the same book was revised in 1925, again in 1934. Now, who got inspiration from Adolf Erman's Dictionary of the Hieroglyphs was a man by the name of E.A. Wallace Budge. E.A. Wallace Budge, in 1899, was in Egypt. Supposedly had found and purchased scrolls that he bought from antique dealers over there. They were 10 feet high. And these scrolls he bought, and he brought them back to England, where he became the curator of the British Museum. And from those scrolls, from the inspiration of Adolf Erman, writing the dictionary of the hieroglyphs, he came out with, in 1899, a book that is known today as the Book of the Dead, or the Coming Forth by Day, by E.A. Waters Budge. So then after that, another scholar came out with another grammatical Egyptian book. His name was Alan Gardner, and he came out with the book Egyptian Grammar. You see, all this was inspired. These two people and their two books were inspired by Adolf Ehrman, going back to 1880. So they got the Egyptian Grammar out there by Alan Gardner. So they have taken over ancient Egypt, supposedly by their institutions, Western academia, and let me tell you some more real history that's attached to why the Meta-Nature hieroglyphs never been deciphered. I, Walter Williams, went to the Field Museum where Frank Yorko, who was a professor at the University of Chicago, was teaching hieroglyphics class. I enrolled in that class, paid my money, sit down, and with my notebook to take notes as to how the hieroglyphics has been deciphered. Now, I didn't know at the time that the hieroglyphics hadn't been deciphered. I'm just taking an assumption that some of the glyphs or a method of hieroglyphic decipherment was done, had already been created. So I'm sitting in the class that Frank Yorko, who's a professor at the University of Chicago, he's dead now, but as he began to teach, my stomach began to get queasy. And when my stomach gets queasy, my stomach is telling me, Walter Williams, something is wrong. So I kept listening to what he had to say about the hieroglyphics. Then after the class was over, we all disbanded and went home. So at home, I began to think. I said, something is wrong. I don't feel, what he's saying is not sitting right with me. I said, well, maybe I should take a class from the brothers, okay? And Jacob H. Carruthers were having a class in our neighborhood at the Inner City Studies at the University of the Inner City Studies on 39th Street in the heart of Chicago, South Side. So I enrolled in his class. Now, not knowing what to expect, enrolled in his class, and he was teaching about how the hieroglyphics were deciphered, and I was still getting that queasy, funny feeling came over me again. I said, this is something wrong with this. This is not right either. So I had paid my money, and I said, okay, let me go home and regroup. So I never did go back to this class anymore. But it dawned on me, after thinking about it, I said to myself, and this is what came to me, in order for the hieroglyphics, of the Meta-Nature hieroglyphics to ever have been deciphered, one would have to ask the ancient Egyptian what he or she meant for them to be. Now that makes common sense to me. And you cannot put an alphabetical value to symbols. Symbols has to be explained. You have to explain what is the meaning of this symbol. All this came to me as common sense. So I pulled away from all of them and came out and said the hieroglyphics have never been deciphered. Okay? And another professor was teaching at that time at the University of Chicago, also Peter Piccioni, who was teaching the class. So one of my students enrolled in his class, and on the first day of class, I went over to the University of Chicago to meet Professor Piccioni. And upon meeting him, we asked him, had the hieroglyphics, in his opinion, ever been deciphered? Because he was about to teach a 12-week course on how the Metal-Natural hieroglyphics have been deciphered. So he hemmed and hawed, and he did not give a direct answer, even though he was teaching a 12-week course on it. But from the answers and his attitude and his body movement, it was saying to us that no, the hieroglyphics has never been deciphered. But let me follow up on Professor Peter Piccione and bring you up to the date, today's date on Peter Piccione. He is no longer at the University of Chicago anymore. He is now at the University of North Carolina. I think it was last year, or the year before, my wife and I, Arnetta, we looked him up, found him, and we called him, and he picked up the telephone to our surprise. So we asked him point blank, Professor Piccione, in your opinion, do you think that the Metal-Natural hieroglyphics has ever been deciphered? This is his answer. He says, well, we're working on it. And he said yes, and he said no. He said, we're working on it. See? Now, that means, no, he don't know. Okay? Now, but now, when I threw the brick at Western Institution, I'm denouncing them because they're out here teaching that the hieroglyphics has been deciphered. And the brothers in the community is eating it up and sopping it up with a big white biscuit, thinking that what's coming out of Western academia is the truth. And when I threw the brick at the Western academia, every Negro in there came running out of that institution with a knot outside their head and blood running down the side of their face. But I didn't throw the brick at them. I threw it at Western at white folks in their institution. But the Negro come out and he's going to defend the white folks. You know. Now, here is an individual who wrote a 216-page book, rebuttal to Walter Williams. Now, this is on the front page of this book. The title of this book has the Egyptian hieroglyphic writing system been deciphered? Question mark. A rebuttal to Walter Williams. This is on the front page, front cover of this book, rebutting me. Now, it's written by a person, I'm going to try and pronounce his name right. The person that wrote this book, his name is Seshu Mana Medu Nature. That's his name, who wrote the book. And he did a fantastic job, a terrific job of trying to write this book to rebuttal Walter Williams. He did a fantastic job. And so as my wife and I thumbed through this book, trying to find, I said to myself, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe the hieroglyphics has been deciphered. This brother wrote a big book, 216-page book, well researched and everything like that. We went page to page trying to find out why he's rebutting me as a rebuttal, saying that I made a mistake by saying that the hieroglyphics has been deciphered, and this book will prove that. But not one page and not one sentence in there tells you how the hieroglyphic symbols known today, how they were symbols. I mean, how the meaning of them. In other words, the symbols or signs, you have to explain the meaning of a symbol or sign. Okay? You can't put an alphabet to it. You can't just say, oh, that has been deciphered. Tell me how. bring me a symbol that you accept and I accept as being a symbol of, drawn by the ancient Egyptians, as a symbol of being the hieroglyphics. And you explain the meaning of that symbol according to what the ancient Egyptians meant for them to be. Can't do that. And he didn't do it. So I've been waiting, and I've been on many talk shows. He had never come on the show, any shows I've been, not only on this show, other shows, Carl Nelson's show, Zoe Williams' show, and so forth and so on. He has never appeared on that show and said, brother, you're wrong, and tell the world how you decipher a hieroglyphic. He's never showed up, not even to this day. Okay? So, brother, if you're out there, if you say I'm wrong, fine, come and tell the world how I am wrong. Okay? Now, the last thing I want to say about the hieroglyphics. The word hieroglyphics is a name coined by a Scottish explorer by the name of James Bruce, who was surveying in Egypt in 17. So a surveyor today would be an archaeologist. In 1760, he discovered some symbols that we know as the hieroglyphics, and he named those symbols hieroglyphs in 1760. James Bruce, a Scotch archaeologist coming out of Scotland, named those symbols that we know as the Meta Nature hieroglyphs in 1760. So that is what I have to say about why the Meta Nature hieroglyphs has never been deciphered. Brother Tarhaka?
All right, Dr. Williams, fantastic job. As always, it is quite incredible. And if one just used common sense, okay, if we came, let's say you and I came from a country, not America, we came from some other country, and we came to the United States, and we was in an automobile, and we riding down the road, we see a stop sign, and we don't speak English, so how are we going to know what that means? We don't know. And the same thing with the Egyptian hieroglyphics. You got symbols up there, thousands of years old, but you're going to use your imagination to lead the world to believe that you have deciphered the Meta Nature hieroglyphics. In order for me and you to find out whether or not you have actually done that, the first thing you got to do, you got to buy a ticket. You got to pay to get in. to listen to the lie, you got to pay us for this lie. And but what I always try to go back to dealing with the foundation of things. So what I'm going to do is take a quick break. Let's take a look at European education, see how they come to a conclusion about you using your imagination to come up with a solution to something. So hold on a minute, Dr. Williams.
Okay.
Hi everyone, and welcome to episode 31 of the Medieval Podcast. I'm Danielle Sobalski, also known as the 5-Minute Medievalist. It's September, and that means it's time to go back to school. So I thought today we'd take a quick look at the who, what, when, where, and why of medieval education. So the first question, of course, is who got educated in the Middle Ages? And the answer to that is both boys and girls, and they got educated in different ways. And today we're going to look at formal education, so not trades and apprenticeships, but rather the formal education, the type that we think of when we think of going back to school. So, of course, most of the people who got educated in the Middle Ages were boys, and these were boys who were either given to the church to be educated, or they were boys who were noble and therefore were educated as part of their learning to become a good lord in the future, or they were boys who were lucky enough to get an education through a schoolmaster, sometimes in a school in a town. Girls also got educated, sometimes in schools, but most often they would be educated if they were given to a convent to be raised, or if they were noble children, again, or if they were sometimes lucky enough to be put in a school with boys, but that we don't have a lot of research around that, so that's mostly speculative when we look at girls being educated in school. So that's the who of got educated. Pretty much whichever children could afford it and their parents thought it was important enough for them to do, those are the children that got formally educated. And when did they start their education? Well, as all parents will tell you and teachers will tell you, there's a sweet spot for kids to get educated, and that is after they are potty trained and before they are too old to be really obedient. Okay, that's a bit of a joke, but definitely it has to be. You can't really send them to a school environment in the way we think of sitting at desks in classrooms until they are potty trained. So that's going to be later than about 3 or 4. In medieval society, people started to go into apprenticeships or fostering around 7 or 8. So usually they were starting to be educated before that. Again, we're talking about formal education here, so people sitting and being taught from books, for example. Children were also educated, of course, at their parents' knees, being taught things like rhymes that would teach them things just as we are today. And again, they learned things about how to be helpful in the home before they were old enough to go sit at a desk. So kids were getting educated from the time they were probably about 3 or 4. They were starting to be taught how to read. Sometimes this would be at home. Sometimes this would be in a school, and we'll get more at that more later. And they would be educated for as long as was useful to them. If the end goal was to be educated in order to become a member of the clergy, they would be taught until they were well into their teens. If they wanted to be a lawyer or a doctor or a doctor of theology, for example, then they would be educated until their late teens, early 20s. So a question that might not seem all that obvious is the question, why educate children? And I really think you can tell a lot about society by how they educate their children and the reasons why they do that. So when you think about why would you educate children? In the Middle Ages, this was to make them useful to society, but how useful? Useful in what way? And when you think about the way in which children were raised to be useful to society or to contribute to society, they were raised by the church, and they were raised reading and studying theological texts. So what was the point of this? Well, if you look at medieval society, the top of the heap, of course, is the Pope. So medieval society is a very spiritual society. Christian society had the Pope at the top because the idea was to make children educated in order the end game was to save as many souls as possible. So when you think about this, it's kind of a fabulous goal. Humans being humans, the execution of this goal wasn't always something that we could approve of necessarily, depending. I mean, people are people. They will do good things and they'll do bad things depending on the people involved. But people were being educated, children were being educated in theological terms so that they could save people's souls. They were educated to be clergy and help people. They were educated to be able to read their prayers. Not just to administer their land holdings, for example, but to be able to act.
Okay, we're back. I'm going to open up the phone lines. Dr. Williams, you still with me?
Yes, I'm here, Dr. Tarhaka.
Okay. Hold on one second. We got another caller with his hand raised. I'm going to open up the line and see who we got here. Area code 312. You're on the air.
Good afternoon. This is Brother Yoel calling from Underground Bookstore in
Welcome,
Chicago.
Brother Yoel. Welcome. Man, what you think
Yes,
about
sir.
this
Good
stuff,
afternoon.
man? You use your imagination.
I guess it's just as good as theirs, huh? What I've been listening to, though, see, is, well, first of all, good afternoon to yourself and Professor Williams and to the listening audience.
Yoel.
Uh-huh.
I said good afternoon, Brother Yoel.
Oh, okay. Okay. Secondly, I think that what he's challenging here, Professor Williams, that is that then starting going back to Dr. Carruthers them and the others is challenging what they're bringing, and they've never had anybody to challenge that before because they accept that. They accept it because it's coming from so-called academia, people with degrees. That's supposed that we believe, or we've been trained to believe, that they know what they're talking about. So we've accepted that. And when you ask those questions, common sense questions, they don't know how to answer or don't know how to respond to it. I think that's what's causing a leak in what they're trying to put out here and making up, using their imagination and stuff like that, you know. So it's interesting to see how they respond and what's going on and how just a simple man comes later on with no degrees and ask a question that discombobulate these academic scholars and whatnot. So you have to question what's the scholar and where did you get your scholarship from and who and how. So it questions a whole lot of stuff, basically, you know. That's where I just wanted to add to the conversation there. Okay.
I agree with you, Brother Yoel. You're absolutely right, because in 1973, at the UNESCO convention, Cheikh Anta Diop and his student, Theophile Obenga, went and told those white people that they have indeed deciphered the hieroglyphics. You see, so that Diop and Obenga sanctioned what Western academia was putting out here. Now, when I came out in 1993 with my book, The Historical Origin of Christianity, 2 years or 3 years later, I added the appendix section in that book, Why the Metanatural Hieroglyphics Never Been Deciphered. Now, mind you, here is an unknown African living in the United States of America, Little Walter Williams, coming out on the world stage and making these challenges to these so-called degreed individuals. I didn't have no degree. Still don't have a degree. Don't want a degree because I've been miseducated enough. Enough is enough. So anyway, here I come out. Cheikh Anta Diop had laid the foundation that and Theophile Obenga had laid the foundation that the hieroglyphics has been deciphered at UNESCO in 1993, telling the Europeans that. Now, when I came out, I'm still out here talking that the hieroglyphics never been deciphered. I have never had not one white scholar nowhere on planet Earth to say I was wrong. They never, only the Negroes who came out, Carruthers, when he would bring Theophile Obenga to Chicago, and they were presenting lectures at the Inner City Studies on the south side of Chicago. My group and I from the museum would go there to hear what they had to say about the hieroglyphics and other topics of interest. When it came to the questions and answer section, they would not allow Walter Williams. I raised my hand to ask a question. They said, oh, we're going to end the questions session now. We got to go, you see. And then when one of my students, who was very aggressive, spoke up, and that forced them to stay and answer. But on their way out, as Carruthers was pulling Philip Baker off the stage, they didn't want to have nothing to do with us because they couldn't answer our commonsensical questions about the hieroglyphics. So, and then other African scholars came out against me, such as this young brother that I told you just a moment ago about the book that he wrote. Has a Egyptian hieroglyphics been deciphered, and that came out in 2016. You see, but no European scholars nowhere on planet Earth has ever said that Walter Williams, was wrong. See, and they know better than to say that because I'm going to ask a question, And I let me go a little further. I'll give an individual $5,000 to repudiate me when I'm saying that there's never been a man or walked every human form by the name of Jesus Christ. Use the discipline of history to repudiate me. You can't use what you believe and what you think and try to make your emotions make what you believe and what you think right. Using the discipline of history, I'll give you a $5,000 award if you can prove to me that a character by the name of Jesus the Christ walked this earth as a human being. And if you can't do it, I'll give $2,000 to anybody who can get an individual to do that, in the race, creed, or color, including the Pope, to do that. My $5,000 is still in the bank, drawing interest, been there. That challenge has been out there over 25 years. Nobody's taking up the challenge. So I'm giving another challenge to the hieroglyphics. I will give an individual, if you can bring just one hieroglyphic symbol that our ancestors drew during the time of antiquity. You bring me one symbol that I can agree, and you can agree, that this symbol was drawn by our ancestors, the ancient Egyptians, during the time of antiquity. I'll give you $1,000 if you take just decipher one symbol. One, that's all I ask. Tell me the meaning of that symbol according to what the ancient Egyptian who drew those symbols, what he or she meant for them to be. I'll give you $1,000. And so far I haven't had any takers. See? Now, this is coming from an individual, Walter Williams, having no degree from so-called higher learning, a higher system of education. See? So that is my challenge to you. So you are absolutely right, Brother Yoel. So I agree with you.
Well, this Brother Yoel, yeah. Before you speak, it's just common sense to me. I mean, if me and you, I'm gonna ask you a question. Brother Yoel, have you ever been to Chattanooga, Tennessee?
Through there, but not there, but passed through only. Mm-hmm.
Okay, have you ever been to Dallas, Texas?
Yes.
And have you ever been to Colorado Springs?
No.
All right. Well, let's say me and you go to Colorado Springs, and what we're going to do when we get to Colorado Springs, I need you to tell me which way to go and where to turn and what side of town we on and where we headed. Say you could do that?
No, I don't think I can do that. I've never been there.
Okay. All right. Well, here goes the ancient African Egyptian meta-nature hieroglyphics that were written thousands of years ago, but all of a sudden, white folks came up and say, well, we know what it means now. We have deciphered it. And we're going to use our imagination to tell you the meaning of it. But, wait a minute now. Here comes the clincher. Because we have to do this. We have to do this, man. We got to do it. Because if we can't do it, we can't charge nobody no money to get in and hear the truth about the fact that it's never been deciphered. We don't know what it means. We can't make no money like that. So what we got to do is tell a big fat lie and charge you $35 a head to get in here to hear the lie about the meta-nature hieroglyphics have been deciphered and get explosive headlines, put it in the newspaper, put it on the media, get the television stations, the radio stations. It's going to be happening in the Omni that can feed over 5,000 people at $35 a piece that to get in there to hear the lie. So what we're going to do is once y'all get in there, we're going to give you this long, drawn-out introduction, and we're going to give you the background on Egypt. We're going to give you a whole lot of stuff. But we're going to give you a very, very little bit about the actual hieroglyphics being deciphered. And we're not going to explain nothing because everybody in the auditorium is supposed to be doing what? Using your imagination.
Let me tell you this, Brother Tarhaka and Brother Yoel.
Okay.
Jacob Brothers, who Brother Yoel and I personally knew before he passed away, told me, Walter Williams, that his niece, Sister Wimby, or whatever her name may be, went to the University of Chicago to enroll in a class for them to teach her about the hieroglyphics and so forth and so on. They stopped her by telling her, said, well, in order for us to teach you about the hieroglyphics, you have to learn German first. You have to speak and learn German before we can teach you the hieroglyphics. See, why? Because the Germans, like I told you, went into Egypt in 1875 under the leadership of Adolf Ehrman, Carl Richard Lepsius, James Henry Breasted, and other German scholars. They went over there in 1875. And Adolf Ehrman came out 5 years later with a book entitled The Grammatical Dictionary of the Hieroglyphs. So the Germans, having a niche and a corner of ancient Egypt, this is where all this confusion, most of it, is coming from. But they told her, yeah, we'll teach you about hieroglyphics, but you have to learn German first. And another thing, over the University of Chicago, they have a Near Eastern study over there. Not one individual of African descent will they accept in the Near Eastern studies of the ancient of the University of Chicago.
Wow.
See, if you notice that, there's no, you never heard of a brother or sister who have been taught from the University of Chicago, not only the university, but any of them on Near Eastern studies. They won't let you do that. See? So, but they told Jacob Carruthers' niece, told him that they told her, in order for her to be accepted, for them to teach her, she had to learn German first. That's the first hurdle. See, so
wow.
Some weird stuff going on here. See, and then in 1973, at the conference at UNESCO, Theophile Obenga and Chicanto Diop went there and told white folks that they accept what white folks said about decipherment of the hieroglyphics. That's where that confusion come in. That came into our community because Diop and Obenga, with their position as degrees coming from Western academia, told our community that the hieroglyphics has been deciphered. And these other brothers, such as Jacob Carruthers, who had degrees, Leonard Jeffries, Asa Hilliard, and a whole host of others, Anderson Thompson, all that group of so-called educated Western academia scholars accepted that. But when little Walter Williams came out on the scene, no degree, never been heard of, who in the hell is Walter Williams? You making these things. But they ran through me. They ran. Here's this guy, like I said before, wrote a 216-page book, a rebuttal against Walter Williams for saying that the hieroglyphics have never been deciphered. The title of the book has the Egyptian hieroglyphic writing system been deciphered? A rebuttal against Walter Williams. Front cover. You know, you sold that book in your store, didn't you?
No, I bought a copy. I think ordered you a copy, and I think I got a copy too. But
right.
I didn't get into more of them, no.
Okay, but am I telling the truth?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So all white folks haven't said nothing to Walter Williams. But the Negro, he came out and he defended white folks.
And there's a lot of white folks reading your Walter Williams book, too.
That's right. Some of the historical
and it's quiet as a mouse.
Yes.
Yeah.
Man, this is amazing, Dr. Williams.
Matter of fact,
Go ahead, Joel.
Go ahead.
I was going to say, matter of fact, I think probably the large majority of people who are reading right now are being their book is being recommended to their friends and relatives.
So my book?
Yes.
Okay.
Oh yeah.
And that's
one thing I learned
that's
about.
Pretty much why they don't say anything.
Well, once they get the truth about a situation, and they come face to face with the fact that this is just another lie, they have to be quiet. They can't say nothing because the truth is not popular. This country it's like this right here, man. I grow plants and trees, and I got cantaloupes growing, man, and I mean that I finally got some cantaloupes that came on my vines and stuff. But when you build a corrupt foundation, it ain't gonna, the structure that you building on is not gonna stand. It's gonna fall down because the foundation is corrupt. So when you take a tree and you grow a beautiful tree, and you dig that tree up and you cut the roots of that tree, you can plant it back in the ground, you can fertilize it, you can water it, you can get sun, and no matter what you do, that tree gonna die because it's been disconnected from the correct foundation of its roots. Now, Dr. Williams, you just told us that the people that's challenging you are the people that look like you.
Correct. That's right. You know why?
Europeans ain't messing with you. It's
They ain't bothering me. Only the people that look like me. This African out there.
They've been cut off from knowledge itself.
When I came out in 1993, no degree. Who is this Walter Williams saying there's no Jesus Christ? Who is this Walter Williams talking about no Prophet Muhammad? Who is this Walter Williams saying that we're not citizens of the United States due to the Constitution drawn up in 1787? That's where the lawyer came in on that great debate tape. Who are you? Where you come from? You have the audacity to say these things. You're going against Western academia, okay? And you're going against the belief that Western academia put in our minds by teaching us. You're going against all of that. Who are you? How dare you to do that? And they came out against me, and they couldn't defeat me because I kicked them in their asses.
The truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth. Well, it is actually it is a phenomenon because you will discover that it doesn't matter what you do. The first people that's going to try to challenge you, knock you down about what you're saying, is going 9 times out of 10 is going to be somebody that look like you. That's the way it happened on my job. I call myself trying to get the brothers and the sisters to learn something about their culture, and I come to work with all my books and on our culture, and you know, and the things they're dealing with us and our culture. But and the Europeans, they sitting there, they looking, and they watching me, and they listen to what I have to say. Not one single time did they come up and say I was wrong about anything, because I got the facts right there in the book. But it was the Negro. Don't worry, Mouse. We're going to get rid of this awful, awful Negro. He's going against what you said, Malva. We don't worry about him. We're going to challenge him. We're going to drag him down. Y'all need to fire him. Y'all didn't. Amazing. It is a phenomenon. It's phenomenal. Totally incredible. You've never seen nothing like it on the face of this earth. The way your brother wants to attack you when you telling the truth, or you trying to explain the truth, even though you got the facts, the evidence is overwhelming and compelling. He's still gonna attack you, even though he don't have no facts about nothing, no knowledge of nothing. So he's got to challenge you. It is a phenomenon. Unbelievable. The most remarkable set of circumstances the world has ever seen. How could it be so dumb? I don't want to go into a rant, Dr.
But let me tell you this, Brother Tom. ASCAC, that group called ASCAC, they're still out there today. But when that group was under the leadership of Dr. Leonard Jeffries, Dr. Asa Hilliard, Dr. Carruthers, Sister Nzinga, the president, and all Anderson Thompson, and all those degreed Negroes that belonged to the ASCAC. They hated Walter Williams with a vengeance. I'm telling you, they hated me. They didn't like me. The only person that gave me any kind of attention was Asa Hilliard. Okay? And we would talk. And at that time, no one knew me at that time. See? And he would give me his attention. There's a brother there, I won't call his name, he's still out there today, that belonged to ASCAC. He was the vice president of ASCAC. He refused to shake my hand. Refused to do that. Why? Because I took his Jesus away from him. His wife was a staunch Christian. I took her Jesus away from me. So he refused to shake my hand. Okay? They never invited me to the ASCAC conference. Only way they invited me one time to the ASCAC conference in 1988. Anderson Thompson called me up and said, Brother Williams, now, he and I went to high school together now, right here in the city of Chicago. And he was on the board of directors of ASCAC at that time. Before he died about 3 years ago. He called me and asked me, would I teach a workshop at their convention in Wayne State University in Detroit, Michigan. I said, yes, I'll do that, thinking that this brother is a friend of mine, that he really wants me to be highlighted and bring my knowledge to share with our people and everything like that. But long story short, my student, who had bought a brand new Ford car in 1988, picked up me and Anderson Thompson, and Anderson Thompson's students, one of his students. All four was rode in the car going from Chicago to Detroit. We got us a hotel. Anderson Thompson and I, we shared a room together. And the two students shared an adjacent room next door. One where you can go from one room to the next, because it was adjacent to each other. We got to the plenary that morning, and all of the presenters' names were called and what they were presenting at their workshop. When it got to Walter Williams, I told him I would teach the historical origin of Judaism and Christianity. When it got to my workshop, he said, we're having a workshop. The subject of the workshop is Judaism and Christianity, to be taught by Joseph Halevi. I'm sure you all know Halevi. And I said to Andy, I said after, when the plenary was over, I said, why you didn't call my name? You gave my workshop to Joseph Halevi.
Ben Levy, I'm sorry. Ben Levy. Yeah. I said, why you do that? He said, oh, I forgot. So, okay, we go into the sign workshop rooms. And I had about 10 people, about 10 people in there in my workshop. And all of a sudden, the door opened, and a brother come in with one of those great big old tape recorder, boombox type tape recorder, plugged it into the wall, hit the recording button, and walked out. Well, as soon as he walked out, went to the wall and pulled the plug on it. And I began to teach. For 2 days, I taught that workshop. At the end of the workshop, because at the end of the workshop, a married couple came up to me, and he said, Brother William, we have never ever heard such profound scholarship that came out of your mouth. And you know what they told me? He said, we were sent in here to find out what you were teaching and how you was teaching. And he said, we have never heard such great scholarship. And the student of Andy Thompson, he was in my workshop all that time. And he came up to me and said, Brother Williams, I got to give it to you. You held your own. And they went back and told those Negroes
exactly what I said. I mean, what I just told you all just a moment ago. And at the last day of that conference, because this is a spring conference. It started in March. They have ASCAC has a March conference, and back in I think October or something like that, fall conference. But anyway, when we the last day of the conference, we all met in a church and in an assembly hall of the church. And Jacob Carruthers was leaning against the window over there, out in the audience out there. And I was on stage. To my left was the student of Jacob Carruthers, a brother who taught hieroglyphics to other students that came to the inner city studies. He was standing next to me, and that's to my left. And to my right sat Anderson Thompson, Dr. Anderson Thompson, who brought me there. Roosevelt Roberts, remember Roosevelt Roberts, Joel?
No, I can't say that I do.
Okay, Roosevelt Roberts was a student of Jacob Carruthers who had learned to suppose how to teach hieroglyphics to students that enrolled at the inner city studies. And he got up to speak. He spoke, and people applauded, clapped for him. And then I got up to speak. Carruthers, as I got up to speak, Carruthers walked out of the auditorium. His student, Roosevelt Roberts, got up next to me and walked out. And as I spoke, my spirit was so strong that it's like a beam. I touched every person out there in that audience, and they responded to me, and I felt it, and they felt where I was coming from and the words that came out of my mouth, to the point where Andy Thompson hit me on my thigh, and I looked down at him, and he put his finger up to his throat and said, "Cut it." They didn't want that. Okay, so that's some of my experience with those Negroes. See, so.
Okay, Dr. Williams, we got a caller with his hand raised. I'm going to open up the phone lines at area code 314. Y'all hold your hat for a minute. Area code 314, you're on the air. Tell me who you are, where you're calling from, what's your question or comment for our guest. 314, you're live.
This is Pianki. How y'all doing?
Pianki.
Look,
hey, man, come on in.
Walter.
Yes.
Tarhaka, I'm down here in Louisiana with this hurricane.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah, I tell you, it's beating the hell out of there. Walter, I need you to pray for Jesus to come help me.
hey,
please, Walter, we need help. Can you tell Jesus just to make it go away?
Well, if you wait for me to pray to Jesus, you'll be stuck down there, brother.
Oh, Walter, don't tell me that. We go way back, man.
I know, but I can't help it, brother Pianki.
Oh, Walter, can you do something? I'll even pay you.
No, I can't do it, Pianki. Even though you're my man, I can't pay. I can't accept your money.
Tarhaka, what I'm gonna do? Men hold on to the lamppost and their legs flying out like a flag. It's about to blow them away.
Do you have some plywood?
All the plywood done flew off.
Wow.
Oh, man. Hey, man, y'all in the eye of the storm? Where's that, man?
It's headed over to Alabama.
Oh, okay. All right, so it's leaving y'all and going the eye of the storm over Alabama.
We got some high winds. The lights flash here a couple of times. I don't know. They might go out. I don't know, but If it rains, it ain't worse than that have down there in New Orleans.
Wow.
Hurricane. Oh, boy, you got it. You know Louisiana's below sea level, man. You know that, don't you?
Yeah, when you down there in New Orleans, standing in your front yard, looking toward the ocean, you looking up at the ships.
You right, man. I got one of my best friends and family down there in Louisiana, man. They below sea level, man. If you lucky enough to climb up on your kitchen table and look out the window, the water right there, you eye level with the water.
Yeah, I know. And these black folks down here went to church this morning. They was praying hard. I mean, they was praying hard, Walter.
Oh, wow. I can imagine, boy. I can imagine.
Man, let me tell you something about a hurricane. I'm down here in Florida, man. I know about a hurricane. Great.
Only thing I'm going to say to you, Brother Piano, wish you the best of luck, my brother.
Walter, I thought I could expect a little bit more out of you than that. We go way back, man, back to the Red Lobster, me, you, Dr. Ben, and Khalif.
I got you, but I can't help you, my brother.
Oh, my goodness.
Jesus, you want me to get Jesus?
I done ran out of all options. My ass gonna be out there in the middle of the ocean here in a little bit.
Hey, get you something. Grab over to a reef or something, a board or something, anything. Make a raft out of it.
Man, my sister down there in South Florida, I called her up when the hurricane struck down there. She came on, I'm in the living room, people riding down the street in boats. I said, you can't get there. Oh, man. As far as the listening audience is concerned, I don't know where you live. You might be in New York, you might be in Colorado, you might be over in California, up in Utah, up in the Smoky Mountains somewhere, and you may not have ever experienced a hurricane. But let me tell you something. Just imagine your house flying down the road and somebody's roof coming down the street and you watching it go down 4 or 5 more blocks before it lands.
Well, I got
up to 150 miles an hour.
I got my bed full of Bibles. I'm gonna go and lay down in it.
Okay, well, good luck, Brother Pianki. Let us know how you come out on the next show or something.
I'm gonna lay down in it and I'm gonna get on my knees and I'm gonna pray.
Okay, wonderful. Wish you luck, my brother.
All right, I'll see y'all later on. Lord have mercy. I'll see y'all later.
Thanks for the call.
Man, I hope you make it out of there, boy. You better get out of Louisiana and call a helicopter. That's probably the only way you're going to get out. But anyway, Dr. Williams, Brother Yoel, we're going to take a quick break, and we'll be back in a minute. Y'all hold on a minute, man.
Okay.
Our story begins just over 200 years ago, when something big was happening in Europe. The French Revolution had recently sent shockwaves around the world, and now there was one man's name on everyone's lips. Napoleon had arrived on the scene. And in the year of 1799, Napoleon was in Egypt. Wait, what? That's right, in order to open up French commerce with India and to weaken British control of the trade routes, Napoleon had led a force of 40,000 men and had occupied the land of the Nile. And there was something about this invasion that was different from other invasions, and that is that Napoleon took with him a whole scientific expedition. Over 160 engineers, mathematicians, historians, chemists, all kinds of different scholars. And these are not just any scholars, by the way. These were the top thinkers of the day. For example, the famous mathematician Fourier, where we get the Fourier series, was one of many other big names that came along. Napoleon, in doing this, was probably emulating another famous invader of Egypt, Alexander the Great. Alexander had taken with him a retinue of scholars and engineers on all his campaigns. And like Alexander, Napoleon was trying to craft an image of himself as a civilizing conqueror and not a sack and plunder type of conqueror. So in Egypt, these members of the French scientific expedition went all over the place, making maps, copying down ancient inscriptions, making detailed sketches of all the impressive stuff they saw, and collecting enough statues and other antiquities to fill a museum. But the one thing Napoleon's army found that caused the most excitement was not actually found by the scientists, but by a common soldier. It happened when the British had caught up with Napoleon in Egypt, and the French were quickly building a defensive fort at a place called Rashid, aka Rosetta. A soldier noticed that one of the stones being gathered for the building had writing on it. Now that in itself would not have stopped the French from using it. There are more stones with ancient writing on them scattered around Egypt than in any other country in the world, and unfortunately people have been reusing these easily available ancient stones to build new stuff for thousands of years. But this soldier, whose name has unfortunately been lost to history, saw something about this particular stone that made him pause and go fetch the engineering officer, presumably a more educated guy, who came and looked at it and immediately realized that this was something very special. See, unlike the thousands of other stones with writing on them that the army had encountered all over the place, and which nobody knew how to read, this Rosetta Stone, as it became known, was divided into 3 different sections, and each part was written on in a different script. 2 of them were in different forms of ancient Egyptian writing, which again no one could read. One was in hieroglyphics, and another was in a script called demotic, which is kind of like a shorthand/cursive form of hieroglyphics. So one is like this priestly, beautiful, artistic script, and the other is the more bureaucratic script. Knowledge of how to read both of these writing systems had been lost for 1,500 years. But this inscription had a 3rd section in ancient Greek, and Greek could be read, by many of the French officers in fact. So the engineering officer looked at it and thought, what if all 3 sections said the same thing in different languages? This could provide the key to finally reading all the miles of inscriptions adorning the ancient temples and royal tombs of the land. This discovery created a lot of excitement throughout the army, and many officers would come to look at the stone out of curiosity. Soon after, when the French were defeated by the British in Alexandria, the Brits kindly offered to defray the cost of shipping and handling on all those antiquities the French had collected to Europe. After all, the French didn't have any ships, they had just surrendered them. So the Brits were like, look, you guys are going to have enough trouble getting home as it is, so don't worry about the antiquities. We'll take care of them. You're welcome. It was an offer the French couldn't refuse, and so the British Museum acquired a pretty nice Egyptian exhibit. Not bad. Not bad at all. Legend has it that the French general tried to save at least the Rosetta Stone by hiding it under his tent, but the word had already gotten out, and the British were like, hand it over, buddy. Luckily for the French, they had made copies and casts of almost everything, so their scientific material at least was intact and made its way back to France. And there they made an impressive 18-volume work called The Description of Egypt, which was eagerly acquired by all the major universities in Europe, sparking a kind of Egyptomania across the continent. And as soon as copies of this Rosetta Stone started to circulate around Europe, there was a lot of excitement about that too, and it sparked a race to decipher the lost scripts. At first, it looked like a British scholar named Thomas Young was going to be the one to crack the code, which would be like adding insult to injury for the French, who had lost the war by this point, Napoleon was exiled, and the British had taken the actual Rosetta Stone. So this guy, Thomas Young, and by the way, for any science buffs out there, this is the famous physicist Thomas Young who demonstrated that light is a wave. So what Young had realized was that in all the places where in the Greek text there was a royal name, and that's Ptolemy, the Greek king of Egypt, in the equivalent spots in the Egyptian hieroglyphic text, the symbols were circled. It was surrounded by a figure called a cartouche. So based on the hypothesis, which later proved correct, that the circled symbols were royal names, and in this case the name was Ptolemy, or in Greek Ptolemaios, Young was able to get a few sound values for a few symbols. And he made some important inferences about how this script actually works to express words and sounds. Now that still won't let you suddenly read the whole language, but it was a big breakthrough. And it seemed like only a matter of time before the Brits would achieve their triple crown, winning the war, getting the stone, and deciphering it too. and this was very much a matter of national pride for both sides. However, in France, a young man named Jean-François Champollion had been working on the decipherment for some time on his own, somewhat secretively. He had already come to a few similar conclusions as Young had when he received a probably over-sensationalized report about Young's breakthrough. Needless to say, Champollion was shocked and devastated by the news. All this hard work and for nothing. Soon after, however, he received more accurate information, that while some sounds for different symbols had been plausibly decoded, the language itself was still unreadable. Champollion took heart again and doubled his efforts, working day and night relentlessly on his goal. And well, he did achieve his goal, and was the first to actually read the full Egyptian text. And he did get the credit and the honor and the glory for it. If you go today to his hometown of Figeac in southern France, you'll see a monument to his honor in the form of an enormous Rosetta Stone replica filling a large courtyard. So the British may have kept the original, but the French did get their comeback. But why did Champollion succeed where others didn't? In other words, of all the very smart people across Europe who were racing to decode the script, why was Champollion the first? Was it inspiration? Or perspiration? Or did luck play a role? Actually, to his credit, Champollion did something that no one else in this race did, and that is, he took the trouble to learn a language called Coptic, which was the language of the Christians of Egypt. You see, after the Muslim Arab conquest back in the 7th century, part of the population of Egypt had remained Christian and had kept their own language, which descends from ancient Egyptian. In fact, Egypt is still about 10% Coptic Christian, little known fact, but they mainly speak Arabic now. Anyway, Champollion was the only one in this race who realized the essential value of this one surviving and known Egyptian language, and he put in the long hours of learning it. And ultimately, that's gotta be one of the main things that set him apart from the rest. And so he truly does deserve the fame that he has. The decipherment of ancient Egyptian opened up a whole world of new texts that could be read for the first time in over 1.5 millennia. And of the various modern decipherment stories of ancient texts, this is by far the most famous. But it didn't fundamentally change our view of history. People already knew Egypt was super ancient. They already knew about most of the dynasties of the pharaohs from Greek sources. So we already had at least a very bare outline. But this amazing accomplishment of Champollion allowed us to add flesh and blood to the bare bones that were there. And the thing about Egypt is that it's the most continuous of all ancient civilizations. Pretty much anywhere else, you get occasional dark ages where there's no written records, and then periods of high culture, and then chaos again. But in Egypt, you can find a continuous supply of monuments, temples, tombs with writing on them stretching back to 3000 BC with pretty much no major interruption. That allows Egyptologists to construct a continuous timeline from 3000 BC to the beginning of the Common Era. You can't do that for any other ancient civilization. And so to this day, our chronology of the ancient world in general before the classical period is largely based on Egyptian records. And whenever we discover a new ancient city and we want to know when it flourished, one of the ways to do that is to see if there's any contact with Egypt, any Egyptian artifacts there or mentions of the city in Egyptian sources. And then, using the Egyptian timeline, which we do know more or less, we use that to date other civilizations. And that is why Champollion's discovery was a big deal and formed one of the cornerstones of our modern understanding of ancient history.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are now back, and our special guest, Dr. Walter Williams, the title of the broadcast tonight is Why the Ancient African Egyptian Hieroglyphics Have Never Been Deciphered. Our special guest, Dr. Walter Williams, and we got Brother Yoel on here with us. I'm going to open up the phone lines. Keep in mind that the number to dial into this show is 319-527-6084. That's 319-527-6084. Press 1 on your phone. That'll give me an indication that you have something to say to our guests, and I'll open up the phone line so you can say it. Dr. Walter Williams, are you back with us, man?
Yes, sir. Brother Tarhaka, I'm here. Can you hear me?
All right, so now I hear you loud and clear. You heard how they concocted the big fat lie. What you think about that?
That's the Western academia presentation of the lie. One of them.
That's right.
One of them. Now,
okay.
So they got it all professionally concocted, so it sounds good to the listening audience who hasn't studied the subject, only heard of ancient Egypt, things like that. So I repudiate the things that this presenter was saying, supposed to be narrating some of the history about how the hieroglyphics have been deciphered, Champollion and this and that, and Rosetta Stone and so forth and so on. So I could tear all that down, but why waste my time?
Okay. Well, I have to agree with you because you've already given us the breakdown on the whole situation. But I thought I'd put that on so the listening audience can see how they go about concocting lies and peddling it as truth. And they do it all the time. It's the most phenomenal thing that I've ever seen. And then they go about the business of extracting truth, watering it down, removing it, blocking it. The same thing is going on across the social networks today, where anybody that posts anything, regardless of facts and truth about the coronavirus and the vaccine, they are immediately blocked. Immediately. You can't
Okay.
you can't say nothing. You can't get on there and tell nobody that the truth or the true facts about people that are taking the vaccine that are dying. You can't do that. If you do that, you're going to be blocked. You can't come on there and tell nobody to use common sense. You can't even ask questions. You can't come on there and say if there was a virus, then we would hear ambulances, sirens, 24 hours a day, all day and all night, all across the United States. You can't say that. You cannot say that I ride by the cemetery every day and I don't see no funerals. You cannot say that we call 37 funeral homes across the United States and ask them, since the coronavirus struck, has your business increased? And they said no. We cannot say that why was it that countries all across the world was buying test kits for the coronavirus in 2018. We can't say that, or you'll be blocked. So truth is not popular, and there are systems in place to control the minds of the people so they can receive a steady dose of lies masquerading as truth. Let me open up Brother Yoel. Brother Yoel, you still with us, man? Brother Yoel.
Yes. Yes. Yes, brother, I'm here
okay,
still.
Okay, my
Yeah.
brother. What'd you think about that plug we just ran, man?
Well, I think that it says that there's Professor Williams said there's many interpretations. I guess that's his story, and they sticking to it. You know, that's how they see that it went. And I guess, you know, with the way things were communicated back then, who knows how and how authentic any of this stuff is that they brought to us today. Anyway, when we really get to thinking about it, somebody would have to have their job of assigned to them to kind of keep all this stuff in perspective, or keep track of it and all that kind of stuff, you know. But then you would have to trust these people who are bringing this stuff to us, and that's what they're asking us to do. But we're being asked to trust some people who it's not demonstrated that they can be trusted like that.
That's correct.
You know, and especially some people who went throughout the whole planet raping, robbing, and pillaging, and lying and everything, and still does it. So how can we trust them with the vaccine or anything else, for that matter?
That's right.
And I have to agree with you.
So let me add this on to what you just got to saying, Brother Uriel, about the European, what he has contributed to mankind. Okay? He's only contributed to mankind. I'm talking about the European now. Lies, deceit, murder, injustice, corruption, greed, terrorism, militarism, sexism, racism, slavery, exploitation, evilness, hypocrisy, genocide, drugs, death, destruction, disease, war, guns, bombs, bullets, violence, plunder, rape, hate, white supremacy, white superiority, religion, mythology, and perverted scholarship. That's what he has brought to this world of humanity. That's the reason why this planet is in the condition that it's in today. This planet has been raped and robbed by this white male and these Europeans. This planet, people living within this planet, has been lied to by these various religions. And the reason why they've been lied to, one of the main reasons why they've been lied to, is to uphold white supremacy. You see? So he can only function by way of lying and by way of the things I just brought to the listening audience by him bringing forth lies, deceit, murder, injustice, corruption, etc., etc. That's all he has to offer. Has nothing else to offer the world but that. So that's the reason this world is in a turmoil today. This planet Earth is in a turmoil because he had robbed and raped this planet Earth as we know it today. And he has lied and put these lies out there and fed it to the masses of people, thus destroying their knowledge, cutting off their knowledge, destroying these people, giving these people lies to replace truth with. And he took the Mayan creed that our ancestors, the ancient Egyptians, used in their culture in ancient Egypt to live by, which is the Mayan creed, the creed of Maat, that female with that scale of justice. And the Mayan creed consists of truth, justice, peace, love, and wisdom. That's when he came on the scene. This European first came on the scene under Alexander the Great. That's what he found already in place. For 9,668 years, our ancestors had the civilization going in peace, based off of love, justice, peace, and wisdom, and justice. They had that going for them until this European came on the scene. And he took truth and made it into a lie. He took justice and made it into injustice. He took peace and made it into chaos. And he took wisdom and made it into a lie. And he took love and turned it into hate. And that's where we are today. Until we learn the truth, until we find our way back to ancient Egypt as an African people living in the United States of America. At that point, knowing our ancestors' history of ancient Egyptians, then we are able to dispel these and replace these lies with the truth. And that's the only way this people living on planet Earth will get any true knowledge and true justice and true peace by the ancient Egyptian coming back and finding their way back to ancient Egypt. So Yoel was right. He is right when he says the things that he says about the European. So that and those things that I just stated has to be acknowledged, and you have to put it into your everyday life, and you're going to have to fall in love with ancient Egypt. Yeah. So you have to fall in love with ancient Egypt. So this is what I have to say about that. Brother Tarhaka.
Okay, Dr. Williams, we have a caller with his hand raised at area code 813. I'm going to open up the line. 813, you're on the air. Tell us who you are, where you're calling from, what's your question or comment for our guest, Dr. Walter Williams. 813, come on in. Come on, 813. Okay, we have some technical difficulties. Can't hear nothing. Not coming in, so I'm going to go ahead and mute this in, go back and open up Brother Yoel. Brother Yoel, you still with us, man?
Yeah.
Brother Yoel. Okay. All right, man. Come on back in now. I hear a little background noise. I had to mute the mic. And but we're still going on. Dr. Williams is in agreement with you about the things that you were saying last time you was on. Let me see. We got go ahead. I'm gonna open up this phone line down here.
I have to say that this guy did a masterful work with the brainwashing that he's perpetrated on the whole world. Mm-hmm. And I think that we represent that generation of those who are coming out of that brainwashing that he's went across the world with and whatnot, you know. And I think that's probably maybe also why it's time for him to leave the planet right now, you know, and which is why he's having an inability out right now to procreate. So his lying time is up, and he's been eliminated right now, and something that he ain't talking about. But you can believe they're spending a lot of time trying to study, research, and do everything they can to find out why they are not able to reproduce in what right now. So you notice you haven't heard any conferences, research, studies, and nothing like that on it. You can get on the internet and maybe YouTube, and there's some people talking about it somewhat, but you haven't heard any. It's a quiet subject that they're not really talking about. But they've been looking at it for years, and I mean at least 50 to 60 years. They've been looking at this, you know. So I think they probably will. You might be able to go back as far as maybe the early 1900s, but at least back to the 60s, they've been looking at their population decline. And so its time is up with all this lies. All the stuff that he done perpetrated. Now it all has to be corrected. And this is a part of the correction, process right now.
Well,
and that show also, to me, shows the genius of the creator and the creation, the ancestors and whatnot. They pluck a little boy that ran away from the preacher in the church when he was a little boy, because the preacher told him that God needs you. And it took that little situation and that little boy to come up, grow up, and then question all of this stuff and confuse and confound all them academics that's been told the stuff that they believed was the truth.
I think that little boy you're talking about.
That's genius to me.
I think that little boy you're talking about, brother, your was Walter Williams.
Yeah, so he took that little boy that didn't have no degrees, the ancestors took that little boy that had no degrees and raised them up to make all them look like goofballs.
You see, what you're saying, Joel, is absolutely true, because how he kept his power was to keep us Africans, the descendants of the ancient Egyptians, asleep. As long as we are asleep, then he can work his mojo. You see?
Mm-hmm.
But now we're waking up now. So therefore, he's fighting for his life. Okay? He's fighting for his life. See? So
yes, and you come here with no degrees, making these degrees look silly, making them all look silly. So the question is, how important really is his degrees? They really ain't that important. That's what you're doing to him, to show the world that his degrees really ain't that important.
Right. See? So I came in, and I came on the campus of brick and mortar of his institution, his colleges and his universities. I took them to wrecking ball and tore all that stuff down, all those brick and mortar and all those lies. It's in the pile of rubble. Okay? He's fighting for his life. It's over for the European white male and the white race. They know that. The only way that they kept these lies going is by keeping us Africans, the descendants of the ancient Egyptians, asleep. As long as we were asleep, fine, they can work their mojo. But the moment that we woke up, it's over for them. And I came out on the scene on the world stage and brought this information. And there's nothing that they can do about it. Nothing they can do about it.
It's too late.
It's
out there now.
It's out there. And he knows that. That's the reason why he hasn't said not one word to me. I don't get no kickbacks from white academia. Only the Negro. See? He comes out, but I haven't heard from him lately. This Negro. This Negro's very quiet. I think he's beginning to realize what I'm saying is the truth.
He ain't took that $5,000 yet, you mean?
No, he haven't got it. And I'm offering $1,000.
Let me open up this other phone line here, y'all. Y'all hold on a minute. Area code 813, you're on the air. 813, come on in.
Doing?
I'm fine, man. Tell us who you are, where you calling from, what's your question or comment.
Absolutely. Hi, this is Ashkia from Tampa. I called in last month, and I wished Dr. Walter Williams a happy birthday, and I was asking him about Moore's heraldry. Do you remember me, Walter?
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
I remember you.
My brother. You're talking about
Yes, sir.
You're talking about the Moors, right?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Have you gotten a chance to look at Moore's heraldry and Blackamoor jewelry, or have you been too busy, Dr. Walter?
Okay, let me ask you this. What Moors are you talking about? Which of the Moors?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So basically, I mentioned Pope Benedict. I think my information was wrong last time. What actually happened was Pope Benedict, the one who was the Pope in like 2000, just like 20 years ago, on his royal crest, on his holy crest, he put the image of a black man. And this is, according to my research, something that has been done since maybe the 13th century, going back into Spain, dealing with Sargon.
Wait before you go. Well, now, you said this Pope that you're talking about goes back to where? What date?
Just 20 years ago, sir, like 2000.
Okay,
this was a Pope. I'm saying that a modern Pope in our lifetime, he chose to put a black man on his royal crest, on his emblem, his logo for his papacy. Okay? He's the Pope, right? So this has been a practice that has been. Well, that's why I am asking you, the expert, sir. I'm not asking you today. I'm asking you to research this so you can bring out some information to the family to tell us why, since the 13th century, have Europeans been putting black faces all throughout Europe, all throughout the Catholic Church, in Spain and in Italy. They dress up like Moors, like in Spain. They dress up in blackface. In the Netherlands, they dress up in blackface. They wear black and more jewelry to celebrate us. So I was just hoping that maybe in the next couple shows, you could do your own research on Moorish heraldry and black and more jewelry and the Moorish coat of arms, so you can teach us why these Europeans put these black faces on their emblems.
Well, because they called the African ancient Egyptians who came into Spain, after they were asked to come into Spain, to bring civilization to them. So that's the reason why in other words, they know the truth, and they're telling you the truth by way of displaying on their garments and on their paperwork and so forth and so on, who they got their information from. So when you talk about the Moors, I wanted to know which Moor were you talking about?
Mm-hmm. Yes, sir, absolutely. And there's actually some Moors in Spain. This is going back to the 13th century. I think it was King Philip of Aragon. Are you familiar?
That's over in France.
Okay, well, I thought that he had territories in in Spain as well, sir.
Well, see, France borders Spain.
Okay, got you.
So therefore, you have to tell me which Moor are you talking about.
Okay, I'm going to read it to you really quickly, sir. It says that the earliest heraldic use of the Moor's head is first recorded in 1281 during the reign of Peter III of Aragon, and represents the cross of Alcaraz, which the king adopted as his personal coat of arms. The crown of Aragon had for a long time governed Sardinia and Corsica, having been granted the islands by the Pope, although they never really exercised formal control. The Moor's head became a symbol of the island. And then really quickly, just a little bit more, it says that basically the main charge of the coat of arms in Corsica is a U Moro, Corsican for the Moor. An early version is attested in the 14th century Gurle Armorial, where an unblindfolded Moor's head represents Corsica as a state of the crown of Aragon. Okay?
Okay, now stop. I got it. Now you're talking about a pope, right? In
Yes,
the 13th century, you say?
Well, that's what the information says, sir. You know, I don't believe everything I read.
Okay,
I
well,
can just, you know, yes, sir. But yes, sir.
But what I'm saying, okay, that was no Roman Catholic Church in the 13th century, none whatsoever. Okay?
I understand.
So the Roman Catholic Church actually started in the 15th century, okay? 1545 to be exact by way of a date. So
you mean 1445? You mean 1445, sir?
Yes.
Okay.
So anything that you read prior to 1445, there was no Roman Catholic Church whatsoever. So everything that you read to me is misinformation.
All right, let's move on. Thank you for answering that. Now, back to the topic of the show.
I have a question before we move on. Could you tell us the title of the information or the title of the book that you're reading from and the author?
Oh, yes, sir. Yes. This is just, I just typed in Moorish heraldry, and this is the first article on Wikipedia, and some of the authors, some of the sources are called Revisiting the Symbology of Europe's Moorish Heraldry. So you can go online. If you go on the Wikipedia article, it lists about 4 different scholastic articles and books, but the title of the Wikipedia article is just called Moorish Heraldry.
Let me tell you, let me make a suggestion to you, young man, is this.
Yes, sir.
Wikipedia is the worst place to try to find correct information. I have never used the internet or my cell phone or any type of electronic device to get information historically. The best way you can get information is the old-fashioned way, is through books. And the books will tell you more truth than this Wikipedia. You don't know who's feeding information into the subject. You see? What you're telling me,
yes, sir,
who's feeding information into the subject are confused people. So therefore, they're going to give you misinformation. So that's my answer, one of my answers and suggestions to you. Don't use that, because in the 13th century there was no Roman Catholic Church. The Roman Catholic Church is 1445, which is the 15th century. And
yes, sir. Y'all hold on a minute now. Let me open up this other phone line. We got a caller at area code 971. Hold on a moment, y'all.
Yep.
Area code 971. Tell us who you are, where you calling from, what's your question, comment for our guest. You're on the air. 971. 971. Okay. All right. No 971 here. Okay, that's the internet. All right, we're back. Brother Yoel, what you got to say about this stuff, man?
Well, I'll answer. I'll get my little 2 cents to what the question that he raised. I think I would answer that by saying this, brother, and that is that I think they did that so-called man, the man that you're talking about. I think you said he was a noble of Europe, right? And put this. Okay, right. So I think that he did that just like I think back in the late 90s, Ralph Epperson, who wrote a book called New World Order and a few other books, he wrote a special book, though. He put together a special book, and the book was dealing with England, and he was dealing with Bill Clinton as well. But he mentioned inside that book that the rich nobles of England successfully gave their people Jesus Christ, and they took ISIS and Horus. I said, so for that same reason that they did that, that's what they probably did, this guy did in this situation with you, because they know who you are. And some of them will be bold enough to do that. I think there was a little while ago, there was somebody with a pennant. There was some woman from over in Europe, from one of them noble families, who had a pennant on her coat lapel that also had a
Blackamoor jewelry. Yes.
Blackamoor jewelry she was wearing as well. So they know who you are. That's why, brother. That's why.
Okay. So Walter Williams, can I ask you a question? Thank you, Yoel, for that. That was excellent. Walter Williams, can you tell me, did the Reconquista start as early as the 11th century? Have the Spanish been trying to get north out? I said, did the Reconquista start as early as the 11th century? Were the Spanish trying to get the Moors out as early as 1096, as this article is saying?
They started expelling the Moors in 1478 under the Spanish and Roman Inquisition that was caused to come about by Ferdinand and Isabella. Okay?
All right, thank you.
When it first started.
Go ahead.
Anything before that, no. Okay. Now,
all right, sir. And now back.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
So what I'm
okay, yeah, I just wanted to get us back on the topic, because I didn't want to side talk the show. I know the show is about hieroglyphics and in Egypt. So can I ask you a question? When it comes to the plain script, Western academia calls the cursive script hieratic demotic. Are there any other names that you have been able to discover so we can understand the plain script that Western academia, I think they're calling it proto-Sinaitic or something? What is the plain version of the simplified scripts of Meta-Nature, like hieratic, demotic? That's cursive. Was there like a non-cursive form like you and I use? Like you and I, when we're writing normally, we just write a A. We don't write the cursive A unless we're signing our signature. Is there a name for the African Meta-Nature version of just the plain script? Not hieratic, demotic. That's cursive.
Well, that's hieratic, demotic is alphabet. Is the alphabet, the original alphabet. And you can take that alphabet, okay. You can print it. You can print it, or you can cursify it. Okay? So it's what you do with the alphabet after you learn it. That's hieratic, demotic. Okay? Now, that has nothing to do with the ancient Egyptian hieroglyphs. That's altogether different. Different subject whatsoever.
Okay.
Now, you speak about the 13th century of the Europeans, right?
Yes,
the 13th century means the 1200s. The Europeans were still in the darkness. In other words, they did not come out of the darkness until the 15th century, which is the 1400s, 15th and 16th centuries, when they came out of the dark into the light. After an African by the name of Manuel Chrysolis came from Constantinople, Turkey, which is Constantinople, Turkey. It's called Istanbul, Turkey today, and that land and that name, Constantinople and Istanbul, Turkey, is synonymous. That's in northeast Africa, known as the Middle East today. So Emmanuel Chrysolis came from that area of the world into Europe in 1397 and turned the light switch on. So in order to bring forth the Renaissance era for the Europeans. So prior to the, let's say, the 15th century, which is the 1400s, and the 16th century, which is the 1500s, the Europeans were in the dark. So when they tell you about this happened in the 13th century, they tell you, go back and use your history. Knowledge of your history. There was no white folks around at that time by way of history, knowledge of them being around by way of knowledge of history. Because they had no history back then. They wasn't around. They wasn't even on the scene of history at that time. So stop reading, getting your iPhone and your iPad and going to Wikipedia. You will be so confused. You don't know what to do. I wouldn't give you for any of the information from Wikipedia. Okay?
You're right. You're right, man. Y'all hold on a minute. Let me tell you what happened, man. All right, now. There's a book called Without Sanctuary, Lynching Photography in the South. Now, inside this book are photographs of the lynchings that took place down here in the South. It also has postcards, and it has the original copy, had the original copies of the original purchase receipts, where one human being bought another human being. I seen the original copy. When I seen it, I ran down to the bookstore to buy it. And it was a Jewish woman that owned the bookstore. She said, I'll put in your order. But when I came back down there to purchase the book, she said, I can't get the book. And I found out that the Nation of Islam had the book. So I ran over to the Nation of Islam to purchase the book. They said, we got a copy of the book. I bought the book and brought it home, and I opened it up because if I can get copies of the actual receipt where one human being bought another, I can bring a lawsuit against the United States of America for crimes against humanity. But when I got inside that book, everything was there but those receipts for one human being purchased another. It had been edited out of that book. So they have no intention of putting the truth nowhere where you can get it. And the worst thing that you could do is get online and start. You can Google some things, but the best thing to do is get a hold to the ancient records, and you find that in your book. And you got to hurry up, because what they're going to start doing is they're going to start taking books off the shelf, and they're going to start destroying them. If you go back to history and you start looking at different countries, they burn books. They bring them out in the streets and burn books. They've done it in Russia. They've done it in Germany, cutting off knowledge of the mind because the truth is contained in those documents. Just like you just said, Dr. Williams, they're doing it now. They're altering information. There's a book called Get On Top, and inside that book is called The Science of Penology, and it's illustrated. And I had the original copy of that book, but I loaned it, gave it to a woman, and I never got the book back, but I went to buy another copy. But when I got the copy, it had been edited, and the information had been altered. And I had already read the book, and I said, wait a minute, this didn't say that in the original book. But needless to say, hold on a minute, I'm going to open up our phone line at area code 360. Area code 360, yes. You're on the air.
Yes, would you tell me the name of that book again, please?
What you talking about? Get On Top.
Would you tell me the name of that book again, please?
Get On Top. And the author is Get On Top.
G-E-T on top.
Get On Top. Yes. Get On Top.
The author was who?
Top. That's the name of the book. And the author is A Righteous Mother. And inside that book is The Science of Penology.
Thank you.
You have another question?
No, she's gone.
Who am I speaking to?
She's gone.
This is Ruthie Bay. This is Ruthie Pitts, London Bay in Portland,
let her
Oregon
talk. Go ahead, miss.
This is Ruthie Pitts, London Bay in Portland, Oregon, and Washington Territory.
Thank you. All right. You're welcome.
Let me tell you
something. Let's go.
Let me tell you something about the books what they're doing to books. If you go to like the Newberry Library here in Chicago, has a book sale every year. I went there about 4 years ago, knowing that what they were doing to books, I could find the books that I needed to enhance my studies. And that those books I was looking for was encyclopedias. There's one encyclopedia that I recommend for people to do research in. You get you a one-volume encyclopedia, and that's the Columbia one-volume encyclopedia, the 1972 edition. And in that book, if you know how to read the information in that book, if you know what to look for information in that book, you will never regret it. So that one volume encyclopedia, Columbia one volume encyclopedia 1972 edition, that will save you from having a set of encyclopedias where you got to go from alphabet to alphabet throughout a set of encyclopedias to find information. But you can find whole lots of information in that book. That book gives you languages spoken by people all over the world, the dates and everything, etc., etc. Okay? So they're getting rid of these now. So you can take advantage of them now. They're putting all these lies on Wikipedia, where it's like if you want to catch a rat or mouse, you put some cheese on a trap. So that's what they did. That they have done to you is put that cheese on the trap, and you came over there. So looks good over there. But see, as soon as you grab that cheese, what happens? Bam! You're caught. The trap kills the mouse. See? So don't be like the mouse. You study from books and not some Wikipedia, because it's too many people putting their own spin on whatever subject that's out there. and they're getting misinformation, and they're putting the misinformation on and through this Wikipedia form of communication. So that's what I have to say to you, my brother. So when you find out what more are they talking about, then you let me know. Because there are two.
Okay, you're talking about one person?
No.
You want me to name
group,
one more?
Group. There are two different Moors, group-wise out there.
Okay, and what are the groups of Moors? The groups of Moors.
Have you read my book, The Historical Origin of Islam?
Yeah, I've read about the Moors that went into Spain in 1051. Then they went to the Curia, Manuel Corsolis, 1397. Then the Vatican in 1440. So I'm familiar with the information, sir.
Okay. Have you read? You missed the information I put in there. Then you're not telling me.
I guess I got to go back.
Go back, and you find the second Moor that they're calling as a Moor in history. And that Moor that they're putting in that book is a decoy. Okay, and I put it in 3 sections in my book, The Historical Origin of Islam. So you go and find that, and you call me back and let me know that you found it.
All right. Well, okay, let me add something here. Also, according to Stanley Lane Poole in his book, The Moors in Spain, you see that Moors were being expelled in 1492. But what I've been looking for, and I found bits and pieces of it, of the Moors inside the Americas for hundreds of years, from the United States going all down through Mexico, all down to South America, all over. They had the same, they're one and the same people, the Moors and the Egyptians, the same people that had the sciences of the ancient African Egyptians. I can recognize them just from the sciences that they're using. Number one, they have supreme mathematics. They have knowledge concerning ancient history. They have a distinctive look. They're curly-haired. And they carry the same characteristics, but they were here in the Americas for hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years before the Moors were expelled out of Spain in 1492. But these records have been destroyed. There's only one man that I know of that has written a book explaining about the Moors in the Americas. The Egyptians in the Americas. His name is Horace Butler, and he wrote a book. Let me see. What's the title of this book? Let me see. Horace Butler. I'll think of it in a minute, and I'll let you know. But brother, you have something else you want to say?
Yeah. Like I said, Dr. Walter Williams, I appreciate you so much for answering all my questions, but I didn't want to necessarily talk about the Moors because I know that's not what the show is about. So back to the hieroglyphics, I would like to ask you, has hieratic demotic been deciphered?
You use it every day. You use it every day.
Well, but as far as the Egyptian language, though.
What is the language of the ancient Egyptian?
The language of the ancient Egyptians is Meta Neter.
No, sir. How can you say it's a language?
Well,
I'm
saying that when the common people were writing,
so how can you say it's a language?
Okay, well, I'm talking about the when they were writing, not in the beautiful decorations, when they were writing, in the cursive script. When they were writing in the ancient Egyptian language, I'm saying, can people read what that says?
Stop calling scripts an alphabet language. Language is spoken. Scripts are written.
Okay, has the hieratic demotic script been deciphered? Yeah, you're saying yes.
You use it every day. When you went to school, they taught you your ABCs, right?
Okay, yes, sir.
Is that correct? Is that right or wrong?
You're correct.
Okay, so when they taught you your ABCs, they got that the hieratic demotic alphabet of the ancient Egyptians.
Okay.
So you use it every day.
So how can you and I learn the history of ancient Egypt then?
I keep telling you, you listen to Walter Williams. I've been telling you, nobody knows anything about ancient Egypt, but the ancient Egyptians never wrote a history of themselves or a chronology of themselves. In fact, we had a program some years back about why you cannot use the chronology of ancient Egypt. In my book that's coming out, hopefully soon, called The Spelling Myths of Ancient Egypt, the second chapter I have in there, warning to all African scholars, teachers, intellectuals, and students, do not use the chronology of ancient Egypt. Because the reason why the reason why is that the ancient Egyptians never wrote a history or a chronology of themselves. So that's the reason why I'm saying all that.
Last one. Can I sneak this one in there? This will be the last question. What language is Mayat Hotep, sir?
Mayat Hotep is a language and not symbols.
Yes, so what language is that?
I said Mayat Hotep is words, okay, and not symbols.
Okay. And words in what language? Like you and I were speaking English, so what language is Mayat Hotep?
Mayat Hotep could be transferred or translated to any language that's out here today. See, Mayat and Hotep are words and not symbols.
Okay. All right. Well, I appreciate you, and I can't wait for next month. Thank you so much, and Mayat Hotep to the family, to my brothers Tarhaka and Yoel and Walter Williams. Mayat Hotep.
Okay, my brother, Mayat Hotep.
Appreciate you being on, man.
Yes, sir. Anytime.
Dr. Williams, the title of the book by Horace Butler is When Rocks Cry Out. I think he did a wonderful job on writing this book, even though he's a religious brother and he's had Christianity and all that, but he uncovered some information about the Moorish and Egyptian, well, actually the Egyptian presence in the Americas, and the murder of the Moors down in Mexico. To anybody that possesses knowledge concerning mathematics, knowledge concerning astronomy, knowledge concerning history, knowledge concerning the zodiac, astrology, the sciences, nutrition, health, planology. These are the people that they were rounding up and murdering. The philosophers, they was killing them down here in order to keep the masses from having access to this kind of knowledge and having power. So they were doing that in Mexico, they was doing it in Brazil, they was doing it in Rio de Janeiro, they was doing it all over the United States. And he tells a story about from the records and stuff that he gleaned. He had to go in a lot of ancient places in order to get the records that had been covered up and sealed, but he was able to catch a glimpse of it, and some of it he was able to get and tell the story and write this book. The title of the book is When Rocks Cry Out, and the author is Horace Butler. We'll bring Brother Yoel. Now, keep in mind, ladies and gentlemen, the number to dial into the broadcast is 319-527-6084. 319-527-6084. Brother Yoel, come on back in here, man. I know you ain't asleep.
Yeah, okay. Tarhaka, I'm back in here, and I ain't asleep.
All right.
But I think when you say Horace Butler wrote something, the book that he wrote, I think there's another book by what's this guy's name? It's called The Lost Treasures of King Juba, and Jose Pimenta Bey's book also is focused on America.
Jose.
But yeah. So, but this guy his name is Frank Joseph. That's his name. Frank Joseph, The Lost Treasures of King Juba. That book talks about, and in fact, he deals with African presidents right here in Illinois.
Okay.
You know, so I think he's the one. He's the one. If you ever seen a magazine called Ancient Egypt or something like that, it's a magazine. He does that magazine, and I think he's out of Milwaukee or somewhere in Wisconsin. But he does all right. He's for two bob, you know. So
okay,
that's about all.
Well, you know what the funniest thing that I seen? I was looking at it was a video on YouTube where this white guy, he was coming. Let me see where he was. He was in Oklahoma, and he was driving down the road past the mountains, and he looked to the right. He said, "That is not a mountain. That is a pyramid." He said, "That's an Egyptian pyramid right there. I'm in Oklahoma. What is an Egyptian pyramid doing in Oklahoma?" And as he was filming the camera and moved past the mountain, you could see the backside of the mountain had steps going up the mountain. They thought it was a mountain, but it wasn't. It was a pyramid. And so, why they say in the history books?
Yeah.
Man, that's important here. It's all over
Raised too many
country,
questions.
all over everywhere.
And also, there's some books being written right now on down in South America around Peru. Celestine Prophecy talks about the Moors and some scrolls that they had down there. 8 or 9 scrolls supposedly had prophecies on them and all of that down in Peru. So yes, those are slowly coming out, but there are some books out here dealing on South America now, and we ain't even got there yet. But the white ones found.
We already was there. There ain't no place on earth that we wasn't there first. So come on, man.
All right, let's go back because the time is drawing now. We need to, you know.
All right, but let's go on back, man. What you got? You're going down to the close. You want to tell us how to get a hold of you and get the books?
This is where the time in the broadcast that we should tell people where we can buy my books and things like that, and how to contact me and so forth and so on, you know, and how to contact UL and about the underground bookstore and things like that, you know. So
I know how to run the show. I'm asking you to give us the information.
Okay, but you didn't ask that.
I just did.
And the time is getting close. I'm looking at the clock, and the time is getting close. You haven't said it yet, so I'm bringing it to you to say it. So say it, my brother.
All right, could you tell us how to get a hold of you, how to get your books and information? Could you do that, please?
Now, there you go. All right, now, you can buy both of my books, The Historical Origin of Christianity, whereby the thesis of that book is saying that there's never been a man that ever walked the earth in human form of any race, creed, and color by the name of Jesus Christ never existed. It's a hoax. And my second book is called The Historical Origin of Islam. There's never been a man that ever walked the earth in human form by the name of the Prophet Muhammad of Islamic tradition. That's a hoax. My Christianity book has been out for 28 years. My Islam book has been out for 18 years. And you can purchase those books at your local African bookstores in whatever city or town that you may live in. Or you can go to any major bookstores where you reside and order it from there. Or you can go on Amazon and order my books through Amazon. Both books you can order from the places I just mentioned. Now, one of my main distributors of the book is Brother Yoel at the Underground Bookstore here in Chicago. You can call him. He's going to give you the number anyway, but I'm going to give it before he gives it to you. You can call him at area code 773-768-8869. 773-768-8869 is Brother Yoel. And you can order both of my books through him. And he is the owner of the Underground Bookstore. Now, if you want to contact me, you can email me at ancientegyptian@msn.com. Ancient, A-N-C-I-E-N-T. Egyptian at E-G-Y-P-T-I-A-N at msn.com. If you email me, if you want to talk to me and converse with me further, put your telephone number in your email to me, and I will call you back, and we can converse one-on-one over the phone. Okay? That's how you can contact Walter Williams, and that's how you can purchase both of my books, through the method that I just have given to you at this very moment. So, I guess it's Brother Yoel's time. Is that right, Brother Tarhaka?
Yeah, I'm running the show. Come on, Brother Yoel.
All right, we thought you were sleeping over there or something.
I ain't sleep. You over here messing with me. I want to shut Chicago down.
We just checking. Okay. The name is Brother Yoel from the Underground Bookstore in Chicago. Anybody out there who's looking for some hard-to-get books or some books that they've been meaning to order, you can give me a call at 773-768-8869. That's 773-768-8869. Or you can email me at theundergroundbookstore at gmail.com or theundergroundbookstore, the number 1, at yahoo.com. That's Underground Bookstore, the number 1, at yahoo.com, or the Underground Bookstore at gmail.com. If they're looking for those books that are hard to get out there. As a matter of fact, I want to present a challenge to your listening audience. If they're still listening, let's see how many of y'all could call me this week and see what book y'all want to order between now and the next time we come back onto the show. So how about y'all order Professor Williams' books, those who ain't got it and been listening, been wanting to order it. How about y'all come make this y'all week to call Brother Yoel here in Chicago to place an order for his books or any other books y'all might been thinking about that you might want to order. Let's get that out of the way. Do a money mob.
Now, let me tell you,
everybody.
Let me ask you this, Brother Yoel.
Yes,
the young
sir.
lady they called up asking Brother Tarhaka the name of that book and the author name of that book that she was inquiring about from Brother Tarhaka. Can you get her that book?
What was the name of it again, Tarhaka?
The name of it is, I mentioned two. One is Without Sanctuary. Lynching
Yeah, I got that already.
in the South. All right, and then the other book was Get on Top by a Righteous Mother.
Okay, no, that one I'd have to look into. First time hearing that one. So, but that other one, Without Sanctuary, I got copies of those available already.
Okay, I'll suggest that the young lady that called asking about the book should call you and ask about the other book and see if you can get it for her or not. And your phone number is 773-768-8869. So that's good. That's good information.
Okay, fellas, y'all got anything else y'all want to add before we shut this thing down?
We're trying to get what we said in before you shut it down. So. We didn't want you to shut the door in our faces if we haven't got our
Man,
pitch
I
out
ain't
there.
finna shut the door tonight. I woke tonight, doggone it. I ain't sleep.
Okay, well, that's about it. And I'm through saying what I had to say, and I think that we had a very good program tonight, this evening, and there's a lot of information that was disseminated to the listening audience. I hope they understood it and was able to understand it and evolve with it and grow with it, you know. And if there's any questions that they wanted answered, then they can email me at the email address that I've given over the air here, and put their phone number there, and I'll get back to them. We can go from there. And so Brother Yoel did the same thing about his his bookstore, you know.
So, and thank you very much, Tarhaka, for this broadcast, and thanks to the listening audience for listening. Y'all have a good evening.
Okay, my brother.
All right.
May I hotep to you.
All right. May I hotep, Brother Yoel. Okay, well, Dr. Williams, we have 4 minutes and 9 seconds over here on my clock. What you got on yours?
Well, about the same. You know, about the same.
Okay. Yeah, we're gonna go ahead and close it down. I think we done got all the information out. All the callers been dialed in 319-527-6084. For the next 3 minutes, if we have another caller that want to say something to our guest, press 1 on your phone. That'll give me an indication that you got something to say. Open up the line, and we can close out. If not, I'm going to go ahead and shut down the broadcast. And, well, wait a minute. We got one dialing in at 313. 313, you're on the air. Come on now. You got 3 minutes. Let me have it.
Greetings. I just wanted to get the email address again. I missed it. I enjoyed the show.
For me, my email.
Yes.
Yoel's email.
Walter Williams.
Yes.
I would like your email.
Are you ready to write?
I am.
Ancient Egyptian at msn.com. Ancient Egyptian at msn.com.
Thank you so much.
Put your phone number
I
there.
do.
I'll get back to you.
I am going to do that. Thank you so much. Enjoy.
All right, my dear. Thank you for calling.
No problem.
All right, sister. What's your name? Well, I guess she's gone. All right, Dr. Williams. Well, we come to the end of the broadcast, and you've done a wonderful job. You certainly did, expounding to the fact that the ancient African hieroglyphics, the major nature, has never been deciphered, even though we got all of these people out here telling all these lies about it's been deciphered, using their imagination and leading people to believe that the hieroglyphics have been deciphered. It's a big, fat lie. No, it ain't. We're dealing with people, places, times, and events, and none of that ain't matching. And you're telling us about all of the people back in the day who tried to do it and how confused they was about some happenstance with Rosetta Stone, and we can concoct it, some jokes about that, and still lying, and then hatched it and start peddling it for truth so you can charge people money to come in to hear a great big fat lie. And that's what's been going on in America, and it's still going on today.
That's correct. Absolutely. You said a mouthful, Brother Tarhaka. That's correct. So I appreciate you having me on the show, and I'm forever grateful for you for having a show like this and having me as your special guest to bring this information to our African community and to the world. The world needs it also. So I thank you for providing a platform for me to step on this platform and use my voice to bring forth different subjects that will help our people evolve. And we have to find our way back to ancient Egypt. Never digress, no matter what subject that I talk about. You will always find me going back to ancient Egypt. That's the foundation of all knowledge that's in this world today. So, with that being said, I said to you, my brother, I'm very grateful and thankful that there's a Tarhaka Amaana El Bey bringing forth this type of broadcast. Once a month, sometimes we do it twice. But anyway, without you, it couldn't happen. And without you inviting me as your guest, it couldn't happen. So we work as a team. So I thank you, my brother. I'm forever grateful to you. So with that being said, I said to you, Me'at Hotep.
Me'at Hotep, my brother, and I thank you. You all have a
Hello, everybody. I want to introduce you to The Great Debate by Dr. Walter Williams. He single-handedly laid out the facts in this powerful debate against Mr. Munir Muhammad of the Nation of Islam, Chester Blair, a prominent lawyer in Chicago, Illinois, and Reverend Henry Hardy, a prominent minister in Chicago, and Prince Azio bin Israel of the Hebrew Israelites. This debate was hosted by a retired policeman named W.L. Lillard. Now, the whole thing was a setup by Lillard and his gang, but it didn't work. They brought what they believed to the table, but Dr. Walter Williams brought what he knew for a fact and what he could prove and laid it on the table. We are now in the age of knowing. The age of walking around believing in stuff is over. For your copy of The Great Debate, go to TarhakaDataElimination.org. That's TarhakaDataElimination.org, or contact me by phone. My number's on the website. Oh, and by the way, the lawyer got bust up too. The Great Debate. Get your copy today. Good day and peace.